Yes, indeed. What's happening, world? B Marsh Boxing, and I'm back at it once again with another boxing video. So, Tank Davis, you know me, B Marsh Boxing, man. I like the best fighting the best. And I don't like when any fighter or promoter tries to fool me. Me as a boxing fan who knows the top 10 at least in every division. At least, I ain't gonna lie like I'm hip on the straw weights and 108s like I used to be. You know what I mean? Gotta follow boxing hard body to know the top 10 in them divisions. But, man like Tank Davis, I haven't been impressed with the fighters he's been fighting ever since he became a world champion in, what was it, 2016, 2017? Here we are in 2021. And to me, the best fighter he's fought and beat in a competitive fight, even Steven, was Jose Pedraza. And I believe that was his 16th or 17th fight. He faced some adversity in that fight. I like talking boxing in the whole context. I'm not going to act like or come and tell you I like Tank Davis washed him for 5 rounds. No, he faced some adversity in that fight, but he overcame. You know what I mean? That's like the Leo Santa Cruz fight. Like I know, Santa Cruz was outboxing him for the first couple rounds. Then he bailed himself out with the power because he started to overwhelm tactical skills. It is no question to overwhelm Leo Santa Cruz. You know what I mean? Closing the distance. Leo Santa Cruz made some cardinal mistakes, throwing 3 straight right hands, missing all of them. He threw 4. The first one landed. Boom, caught Tank flush in the face. Then the other 3, he was in desperation mode going backwards, which is not what we're accustomed to seeing Leo Santa Cruz fight, and he got caught going backwards, throwing the Cardinals in 3 straight right hands, 4 actually, three out of 4 landed. Got caught with that killer uppercut, and that's all she wrote. So look, I didn't want that fight to begin with when it happened. I haven't wanted a lot of these fights. The Mario Barrios, this Isaac Cruz pitbull character. Sure he's 22-1 with 1 draw, 15 KOs. But you know who we want to see him fight. You want to campaign at 135? There's Vasyl Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia. That's just a fight for, you know, that's just a great fight for 2 young guys who are undefeated. Both of them knock fellas out. That'll be a great fight, although I do believe Tank Davis should be favored and will KO Ryan Garcia in that fight. That's just how I feel. Ryan Garcia could prove me otherwise, you know what I mean? You know, but Tank Davis, who was 25-0 with 24 KOs, very impressive record. But these guys he's fighting, the Gamboas in them, went 11, 12 rounds with Gamboa. Could have really gone the distance, you know what I mean? But Tank Davis is basically defending himself about being in the Mayweather Witness Protection Program, Mayweather Promotions, you know what I mean? And I believe he is, Floyd Mayweather, subconsciously says it all the time. We're not doing nothing. We're keeping Tank in-house. We know where the best fighters are littered at 135 and or 140. Sure, he want to fight at 140, fought Mario Barrios. They say, oh, he's fighting small guys. He said, oh, I'm going to fight a bigger guy. Well, go fight also the undisputed champion if you're going to go up there. That's how I feel about these type of things. And I don't care how nobody else feels. You want to move up, Israel Vasquez and Rafael Marquez. Marquez was a great bantamweight champion. What did he do? He moved up to face the number 1 fighter in the world at 122. Went up there and he got the W. Just like that. You know what I mean? That's what I would like these fighters to do. But, Tank Davis, he going to defend himself, you know what I mean? By basically saying he's not the only one doing this. And I'm going to read you some quotes, and then I'll give you my opinion. You know what I mean? Quote from the man Tank Davis, quote, they're saying Mayweather Promotions are protecting me and not letting me fight top fighters. Whoever's in the top 4, I don't know. I don't know who they're talking about. Name somebody that is fighting the top whoever. You don't see any other top fighters fighting top guys. I don't know when it's going to happen. It'll probably happen next year or the year after that. I don't know, but don't just put everything on me and say I'm not fighting top guys. The only guy that has fought somebody but didn't want to give him his rematch to Lomachenko is Teofimo. He didn't even know he was going to beat him. I don't even want to talk about him because I don't want to give anybody else press. But name the other top guys that are fighting top guys. Y'all keep saying Gervonta, Gervonta, Gervonta. It's only because I'm doing the pay-per-view numbers. I'm doing, and I'm not even saying I'm fighting top guys. I'm not fighting the guys that y'all want me to fight. That's why y'all keep screaming out my name. That's why. That's the only thing I can say because nobody else is fighting top guys. Name them if they're fighting. It's nobody. What's this guy Haney that is going to fight right before me on December 4th? Jojo Diaz is not a top guy. He's not. End quote. Tank Davis, man, speaking his mind, and this was an interview with the man Brian Custer, who got his little podcast, I believe, here on YouTube. You know what I mean? You know, and I like Brian Custer. He's a cool guy. I met him one time, 2014, at the press conference. Actually, I'm sorry, the weigh-in. Um, there was a fight in Washington, D.C. Who was fighting? There was a lot of fighters I met that night, that afternoon. It was B-Hop versus Beibut Shumenov for that unification at 175. Who else was on? Sean Porter, Danny Jacobs, Polly Malignaggi, Peter Kid Chocolate Quillen, Tank Davis, if I'm not mistaken, was on that card as well. Jamal Herring was on that card as well. It's a lot of fighters I seen that night, you know what I mean? Um, so this was an interview on Brian Custer's little podcast, you know what I mean? You check it. Um, More quotes from the man Tank. Um, Quote, nobody ever came and said, do you want to fight this fighter? And I said, no. You can ask Mayweather Promotions or Al Heyman. They never came to me and said a fighter's name, and I said, no. Never. There are also there are so many people calling my name. It's more so I have to catch them when I catch them. That's where I'm at right now. Sit back. They're calling my name, okay? Catch them at the right time. Catch them while they're sleeping. That's what I'm doing. Just pop right up on them. Say, here it is. You've been calling my name. End quote. So those are quotes from the man Tank Davis. Now, how do my opinion about it? Look, Tank Davis has a great point. Absolute valid point. 100%. He says, nobody else is fighting the top guys. You know what I mean? And he's absolutely right about that. Now, Teofimo Lopez did fight Vasyl Lomachenko, and Tank Davis did give him credit for he's the only one who's fought somebody, but he tried to say, oh, he ain't even know he was going to beat him. Regardless, he did beat him. And for sure, that's a good W for the man. You know what I mean? He got to face his mandatory. He got 3 out of 4 belts. Sooner or later, if he wants to become great and also not get credit and also get credit for fighting his peers, is fighting the man Devin Haney for Undisputed. There shouldn't be any issues about that. No problem about that. As a boxing fan, you should want that. I got a lot of resistance when I was making them Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney fight. We need that for Undisputed. Why not? I got a lot of resistance, especially from the Hispanic fans. And I know they're Hispanics because they came on my channel, on my comment section. They call me all kind of names. They even got mad racial and shit. You know what I mean? And then they come back, try to be a friend. This shit is funny to me, man. You know what I mean? Just because we want to see Undisputed. And they say, Devin Haney, who has he fought? Well, he has the last piece for the man Devin Teofimo Lopez to become Undisputed. I'm not with that. What has somebody done to deserve a fight? Fuck out of here. This is box the fight game where Fights make fights. You know what I mean? Styles make fights. We want to see the best fight the best. You know what I mean? That's how somebody can become a star. Like Teofimo Lopez, when you beat somebody you were not supposed to. And I even won some money that night. Teofimo put some money in my pocket, but that's just because of my intellect about boxing. That's no credit to him. You know what I mean? I thought he could win a points decision, and that's exactly what he did. You know? But as far as Tank Davis, he ain't lying. These guys are not fighting the top guys. But there are boxers in boxing who do want to fight the best. But because they're so confident in their skills, and the rest of the division know that these guys are confident about their skills. They think they can beat anybody and they're dangerous fighters. These fighters don't get an opportunity. Like Devin Haney, you know what I mean? Like David Benavidez, like I'm sorry, what's his name? Terrence Bud Crawford. You know what I mean? Now, I'm sure Devin Haney would like a fight with the man. What's his name? Tank Davis, but they not making that fight happen because Mayweather Promotions ain't fuck with Eddie Hearn, and they said, "Look, we keeping everything in house." You know what I mean? So that disqualifies any and everybody from Teofimo Lopez, who's fighting on Top Rank and or DAZN, Devin Haney, who's on DAZN, Ryan Garcia, who's on DAZN, Regis Prograis, I believe, is going to be fighting on DAZN. Fighting a nobody at that too. He looks like he's taking a step backwards after being a world champion. And I'm sure it's probably he got to take the best available fights because not everybody's trying to just jump out there and fight the man. Regis Prograis, you know what I mean? High risk, low reward. But Tank Davis, if you want to boost your pay-per-view sales, because he's talking about he does pay-per-view numbers. Well, his numbers are abysmal. Really and truly. And that's because he hasn't fought not one fighter who's a great dance partner to make a great pay-per-view. He hasn't. You know what I mean? They tried to sell us the Mexican-American fan base with Leo Santa Cruz. That fight didn't do as great as it could have, should have been if he fought Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney. You know what I mean? So Tank Davis does have a point. Fighters are not fighting the best fighters. Alexander Usyk went up there. He beat um, Anthony Joshua. Great W. Great W beating a man who was a two-time champion who held 3 straps. I'm not sure how many people in the world at that point believed that Anthony Joshua is the best heavyweight on the planet. For me, I thought it was Tyson Fury as the best heavyweight on the planet. You know what I mean? And I would love to see Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury for undisputed. Now if neither fighter is fighting each other, then again it comes back to boxing. What Tank Davis is saying, nobody's fighting the best. Occasionally we get the best here and there. Now I don't consider Canelo beating Abner Yildirim, Callum Smith, and Caleb Plant to be the best at 168. When I've considered David Benavidez to be the best at 168 even before he had a world title. Now, he has his flaws, but who doesn't? You know what I mean? Does he deserve to fight? Is that even a question to ask? That's the best fighter for Canoli to fight at 168. So he's also not facing the best. Matter of fact, I got a video I'm going to make about Canoli not fighting the best, as well as Tank Davis. Tank Davis said Devin Haney's fighting Jojo Diaz. He's not considered the best fighter. He's not, but he's a dangerous fighter. You know what I mean? Also been a champion at 130. He's moving up in weight to 135. But here he is in position to get a world title in the second weight class. You know what I mean? You check it. You know what I mean? The man has 1 loss and 1 draw on his resume. He's a solid younger competitor than these type of guys like the Gamboas and these type of fighters that the man Tank Davis been fighting. I've been seeing Tank Davis fight from way before he was on TV, seeing him fight live at the DC Armory. I wish the best for the kid. I believe in the kid's power with either hand, left or right. But maybe his team, his promotional company, they know like what we've seen, or at least what I've seen. He has his flaws, you know what I mean? But which fighter doesn't? But he also has attributes that could possibly overcome those flaws in a fight. That's why we want to see these fights, you know what I mean? So Tank Davis, he made a great point about nobody's fighting the best. I love Naoya Inoue, the monster out of Japan. You know, holds a WBC and IBF. No, is it WBA and IBF straps at bantamweight? I believe that I think the WBO is held by. I'm not sure. Is it Kazuto Ioka? I'm not sure. I have to look that up. But the WBC is held by Donaire. You know, they fought already. Uh, in order for I think that Uwe the Monster Nui has proven that he is the best in the division and has beaten the best. You know, I'd have to look up. Let me look that up right quick. Who's the champion with the WBO belt at bantamweight? Look at Cool Boy Steph. Him and Brandon Figueroa are fighting the best. You know, they're fighting the best available. Boom. That's a unification. Whoever comes out of that fight got two straps. All right. The only missing piece left would be the MJ Akhmadaliev, Murajadin Akhmadaliev guy who holds two straps. He just fought this last weekend, who holds two straps at 122. So Akhmadaliev was fighting some mandatory. That's well and fine. He's waiting on the win of Brandon Figueroa and the kid, what's his name? Cool Boy Steph out of Philly. Whoever wins that fight, I'm tripping. It's John Riel Casimero. I don't even know how I forgot that because that was actually a unification for that was on the table for Nonito Donaire. I made a video about that. DuckTales. The man's ducking the man, his fellow Filipino, John Riel Casimero, who's going to be fighting his mandatory Paul Butler sooner than in his next fight. You see? Tank Davis has a point there. This guy ain't trying to fight the man Casimero, mostly because Casimero is probably a dangerous fighter, a crude, rudimentary type of fighter, but a guy who is also a 3-4 different division weight champion, a fellow Filipino like Donaire. I don't, and you know, the man Casimero was dissing the man Donaire, dissed his wife too. You know, he made some disparaging remarks, but this the fight game, man. You got to go in there and fight. Fuck that. He dissed your wife. Go whoop his ass. Imagine if Ray Leonard back in the day, when when Ray Leonard called his wife a bitch, and I'm sorry, when Durant called his wife a bitch and said all kinds of crazy shit. Imagine if the man Ray Leonard said, "Fuck that, I'm not fighting him, man. He dissed my wife and he has no respect for me." And no, nah, he ain't do that. He came in with a silly game plan that got him hurt a few times in that first fight because he came in there trying to fight rather than box. You know, his emotions got the best of him. And maybe Donaire, man, doesn't believe he can beat this guy. And I'm mostly think it's due to because the man's a fellow Filipino, a real Filipino, not no Americanized Filipino. You know, a guy who's looks like he's from. He came up hard, John Riel Casimero. You know what I mean? Came up hard over there in the Philippines. You know, he worked his way up probably from the streets, just like Pacquiao. And here he is, a 4-time different weight class champion. And you know, he's not as polished and Americanized as Donaire. And Donaire ain't trying to get this Filipino a payday and an opportunity to get his ass whooped, possibly retired by John Riel Casimero. Now, I don't rate Casimero like he's a killer, but shit, imagine if they did that unification in the Philippines, in Manila, which boxing these days is stupid promoters. They wouldn't even consider doing that. But that'd be a great man. And I used to watch boxing back in the day, man. There was a lot of world title fights held around the world, man. You know, a fight I ain't probably seen since it happened. Henry Maskey versus Prince Charles Williams, like 93 or something. Great fight, you know what I mean? And Henry Maskey got himself a IBF strap, What did the man do? Paul Will- Prince Charles Williams went over there to Germany to fight that man, and that fight was on national TV. Just like when Virgil Hill went to fight Henry Maskey over there in Germany, you know. Look at Azuma Nelson going for the rematch in Australia, outside open air venue to fight the man Jeff Fennick. You know what I mean? You check it. Now, why wouldn't these two Filipinos? Because none of them are stars in USA. You know what I mean? They're not. Now Donaire, the closest you can get him to having a lot of, look, they could also do it in the States too. Whoever makes a lot of money, but in the West Coast, that's where the Filipinos are. You know what I mean? On the West Coast, that's where they'd have to do it. It'd have to be a main event, not on no undercard thing. But Donaire, man, he's waiting for an opportunity to just walk around Earth holding that WBC as a title holder. He knows what's really good if he fights the man, the monster he knew. I don't care what nobody say. Donaire is a Hall of Famer, walking Hall of Famer, no question about it. But he'd have to face the man, the monster again, and I believe the monster will make it easier the second time around. I believe he's a better fighter, pound for pound status, like Donaire used to be, like 2012, 2013. So the best ain't fighting the best all across the board. The best two welterweights, Bud Crawford and and Errol Spence, they not fighting each other. I don't know if and when they will, but as of right now, they're not. You know, we could go division by division. Look, Castano and what's his name fought, and that was the best fight in the best, Jamel Charlo, but that was a bad decision. Castano should be walking around planet Earth as an Argentine undisputed champion of the world at 154 pounds. I was disgusted with that decision. They need to run that back. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Jamel Charlo don't look like you want to do that again. And it's a damn shame. So occasionally, once or twice a year, we do get the best fighting the best, but nobody overall. Overall, in each division, we need to see better beef versus Vivo. That's a Russian unification. Two Russians. That could be big in Russia or big in Brooklyn, New York. You know what I mean? At the Barclays Center. You know what I mean? If I was a promoter, man, I'd try to conquer certain territories on some NWA shit. I'm talking about the national wrestling back in the day with the Four Horsemen and Ric Flair, how they conquered the South, North Carolinas, Georgias, the South Carolinas, and they built a brand from there, the Kentuckys, you know what I mean? You know, you gotta conquer territories and have your fight a home base, like how Errol Spence got that Dallas contingent over there. That's just how it should be. But if the best ain't fighting the best, Tank Davis has a point. Why should he? And that's where we at in boxing. It's fucked up out here. What's up, Boxing Learner? How you feeling, man? Boxing Learner in the chat, what's up with you? He says Fulton for the win. I believe he gonna get the W. He can box. He's like a little Andre Ward at 122 pounds. His inside game is vicious. I mean, he like to bang out on the inside, and he can fight from distance too. You know, at 160 pounds, Triple G's fighting Murata. He's been avoiding the Charlo and Andrade. Hopefully, Andrade could get that fight because that's an easier fight to make. The winner of Ryota Murata versus Triple G, because that's a DAZN fight. That's all I got to say. Jamel Charlo, look, if he can get anybody for a unification, that's great. But he's on PBC where there ain't no other champions over there. Yeah, I mean, there's not. So unless he goes over to DAZN, I don't know what he's going to do. So he's on the outside looking in. But I consider the best in the division, Bubu Andrade. I don't care who he fights for unification. But nobody's trying to fight this guy, and this guy doesn't have leverage to pick and choose like how Canoli does, who he's gonna fight. You know what I mean? If Bud Crawford was in that same situation like Canoli picking and choosing, the Errol Spence fight would have been made 3 years ago, 2018. But he doesn't. Well, and really neither does Errol Spence. Errol Spence ain't no star like that neither. You check it. But when you have, you know, opportunities to pick and choose where you could even avoid mandatories like David Benavidez is being avoided by Canoli, then you just gonna have to, you know, fellas just gonna have to just sit back and watch whomever Canoli picks and chooses. You know, Bud Crawford had an opportunity to pick and choose. He probably would decide not to fight his mandatory if he was on some Canoli shit and say, fuck that, I'm not fighting Sean Porter. He's my mandatory. He don't got that, you know, that type of star power in the boxing game. You know what I mean? So he fought a dangerous fighter in Sean Porter as his mandatory. Canoli would never do that because his mandatory is David Benavidez. His mandatory used to be Jamel Charlo at 160. He was the mandatory for the man Bubu Andrade at 154. But that's where the boxing game is at. There's a lot of truth in what the man Tank Davis said. And until all fighters are held accountable for not fighting the best or fighting the top tier fighters, the fights we as fight fans want to see, then we can't just single out the man Tank Davis. I believe he fights weak opponents. I don't like the fighters he fights, but everybody's fighting these type of fights. You know what I mean? Occasionally, 2 times a year, we get the best fighting the best. Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking forward to Cool Boy Steph and Brandon Figueroa. Great unification at 122 pounds. MJ Akhmadaliev is going to be paying close attention because I would hope the winner of that fight calls out the man holding 2 straps, the fastest man in boxing history to hold 2 world titles, to be a unified champ. You know what I mean? Papi Pazzaloa says, I don't know, man. I feel like Tank has the weakest resume in his division. Which division is he in? Lightweight? Is he at 140? He's doing the Canoli thing, going up different weight classes, picking up regular belts and meaningless world titles against fighters that are just belt holders. You know, fighters that yeah, I mean, they not the best of the best, and that's what Canoli be doing in a disgraceful attempt to lie to boxing fans that he's chasing history. Get the fuck out of here. So that's what Tank Davis does. Then probably that's why he tweeted Canelo is me at 168. Y'all absolutely right. Y'all do practice the same kind of fighting the weakest opponents in every division you're at. They're definitely right about that. That's one thing I could say. Tank Davis is following the Canoli blueprint. You know? So yo, B Marsh Boxing, big ups to everybody in the chat. About to sign off. I'm on this jam for damn near half an hour. I ain't think I'd be on that long. But in conclusion, Tank Davis has an absolute point. If we're not gonna hold everybody to the same standards of fighting the best, unifications. I already gave y'all my blueprint years ago of what fighters should do. They not following, so I don't be preaching about it. You know, a belt holder should have a mandatory in a year, should fight at least 3 times a year. Mandatory in a year, gimme fight in a year, you know what I mean? And a unification. If you could do that over the course of your career, you're going to the Hall of Fame if you can get these dubs. You know what I mean? But these fighters ain't about that. They want the most amount of money for the least amount of resistance. You know what I'm saying? That's like playing a video game on the weakest level. You check it, you playing on the easy level. And then you beat the video game and say you the man. Nope, that's not how it works. But that's how these boxers think about it. They go about their business when it comes to this fight game. Papi Pazuala says, one question, if he keeps fighting weaker opponents, do you think people will stop supporting or casuals won't care? Well, that's who his fan base are. It's mostly casuals, but they're not enough to really make him a superstar. He's a superstar like it's popular on social media. You know what I mean? You know, but it's the casuals who are in love with the man Tank Davis because they see the highlight reel knockouts. And Tank Davis is a guy from the streets of Baltimore, came up on. A lot of people, especially from the urban community, they can relate to Tank Davis. You know what I mean? Just like they did with Adrian Broner. I was here for the Adrian Broner wave. You know what I mean? Where is it now? It's non-existent. But I remember when Broner, a lot of people, um, they got onto the Broner bandwagon because of World Star, his antics, Pops Brush My Hair, then highlight real knockouts. You know what I mean? You check it. But at least the man AB though was fighting legitimate fighters, you know what I'm saying? And his resume is pretty good. And that's why he's burnt out at this age, you know what I mean? Not necessarily because he fought back to back to back great fights, but he has a better resume of taking good fights than most of this generation of boxers because he's in a different generation now. Um, but the casuals, as long as he's knocking out people we've never heard of, the casuals will support the man Tank Davis. Especially he lives out there in Atlanta now. If he's based and fighting in Atlanta, Atlanta is like like the new. I don't know how to explain it, but it's pretty popular amongst athletes and entertainers, rappers, and even movie stars now. You know what I mean? They got studios out there for movies and shit. So it's a big economic hub these days, especially if amongst black people. So he's building a fan base there, which is great. I love it. You know what I mean? I love that. You know what I'm saying? That he's building a fan base there. There's more money there than building a fan base in Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, that's just the truth about it. Unfortunately, here in DC, Maryland area, we don't got no real superstar fighters to put up in the where the Wizards play, the Capital One Center. You know what I mean? You check it. So that's good for him building a fan base down there. As long as he's knocking out these guys, and he will possibly get a knockout in a couple weeks when he fights, then he's just going to build his casual fan base. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about us who want to see him face the best to really know how good he is. Boxing Learner says Figueroa said he's going to move up. He is getting too big for the weight. He is a damn big 122 guy. True indeed. He says he won't fight MJ. Well, we better hope the kid, Cool Boy Steph, could win that fight, because Cool Boy Steph could even fight at 118. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, big ups to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Boxing Learner, Papi, Palazuelos. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Hit that thumbs up on your way in, on your way out. If you're new to the channel, please share and subscribe. And I'm gone. One.